We'll get going here, everybody. I am your leader. I am Alexander Haig today. By that reference, you know what I'm talking about. Andrew Carries is our chairperson who's not able to be here, so you get me. These are the last few pet, pedal, and paddle meetings. We'll talk about that at the end of the meeting, why that's the case. But we have a few new faces and some regular faces here, so let's go around for introductions. Again, Mitch Barloga, NERC staff. Laura, go ahead.
Laura Baum, NERC staff.
Chuck Gleason, Valpo Pathways.
Mark Waddell, Town of Chesterton.
John Anderson, Sherwood Park Department.
Mark Hines, Town of Munster.
David Heinel, City of LaPorte.
Charles Bransky, NERC staff.
Kevin Delaney, NERC staff.
I'm Joe Kahn, I'm nobody, I'm from Hobart.
Okay, Joe from Nobody, or Nobody Joe.
I
Go ahead.
was.
Thank you for being here, though. We appreciate you being here. Tom?
Tom Van Ruben.
Thank you. All right. With that said, we have minutes from our last meeting on January 25th. They were distributed last week via email. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion by John, is there a second? Second by Dave. Is any other questions? All in favor, say aye. All at once, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimous. How do I switch over to the screen? Do I just get rid of?
Press escape.
Okay. Oh, I get rid of that.
That's what they said. You keep asking.
That's that. Laura's got some. Oh, I see what it's doing. Okay. This is why we hire young people. Because old people can't handle it anymore. There you go. You have a seat?
Well, is this mine?
This should be yours. But I'm just gonna go through it, you can sit down and.
Okay.
So, what we're doing today is an exercise that could be as painless or as painful as you want.
Is that 5/1/24, is that what it says?
5/1/24, yeah.
Okay.
So what we have here is a couple of applications. Just so you know, this is our NOFA year, Notice of Funding Availability, because we love acronyms, right? So every 2 years, we put out a whole bunch of money. How much money do we usually get for Bike and Pet, Charles, approximately? That's great. So it's, let's say 5 million.
A lot.
Yeah, 5 million, which is great. So this is for, Greg, introduce yourself, Greg.
Craig, Lake County Parks.
Hey, Greg from Lake County Parks. He doesn't have a last name, he doesn't need one, just known as Greg.
Thank you.
Greg's a big Dutchman. So, every 2 years, we put out this call for projects. This is for fiscal years what, Charles?
It's from 2026 to 2030.
Well, we're populating 29 and 30 in this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so keep that in mind. These projects, this is for projects in 29 or 30, so we want to get everyone ramped up and figuring this out. We have this system of review of projects, complete streets, and multi-use trails are under the purview of the Ped, Pedal, and Paddle Committee. So what we usually do every 2 years is come back to the group as you are, and it's a nice crowd, thank you for being here. And we go over this application in detail to find out if there are any hiccups from the last application that you want to address. Of course, we've been doing this and we've been refining this application for several years now, so the hiccups are getting less and less. But we did have a reformatting of the entire process back in, I think, 2019 or 18. And we had to pretty much do this from scratch. And so more hiccups came up. So we're in the process of getting that resolved. Now, Charles Bransky is the leader of the NOFA process. He'll be leading that up with all the committees come, I think September is our call, right?
Yes.
And when is the due date? Do you have a ballpark
Due date for what?
for all the project applications?
They'll be due sometime in October. We usually put it out for 4 or 5 weeks.
4 or 5 weeks, so we want to make sure everyone is as ramped up and as engaged as possible. Because 4 or 5 weeks isn't a lot of time if you really want to start getting some buy-in. I know personally, in the past, I have worked with many stakeholders on different trail projects, to make sure that they get their Ps and Qs in order before they apply, get support letters, make sure that they even have a project. Sometimes they have eyes bigger than what they want to apply for. So anyway, what we're going to do here is go through 2 applications and find out if there are any questions. We're going to try to do this, like I say, as painless as possible. Up on the screen, I'm going to try to make it as large as I can, so you all can see it as I can without losing anything. So these are the actual complete streets and multi-use trail applications that we saw in the 2022 call for projects. And we're just simply revisiting it. There have been some revisions. Charles has taken this before some other committees, and they have done some review, because there is another application process you apply for, and then this is the supplemental application detailing the projects that you're looking to apply for. You've been looking at those general questions, Charles, and those have been refined, but it has bled into some of this. So this is the updated version. And as we're going through this, Charles, if you could just let us know what you guys may have changed as we go through this. But, everything up here is pretty straightforward.
Anything that's been changed is in red.
There you go. It's like the Bible, but different. Okay, so everything that's been changed is in red. All right. So general project information, any of this is pretty straightforward. Again, I'm more than happy to entertain any questions on anything as tedious as you want to be. That's what we're here for. We do not want you to talk to us in September and say, hey, wait a minute. We want you to do that now if possible. So, okay. This is what we have for general project information. Again, this is complete streets. We're not on multi-use trails yet, so that's why you're looking at things like bridges and utilities and everything else, which you really wouldn't see a lot of times on a multi-use trail application. Then we get to the questions itself, and so I want you to focus on 2 things here: the actual question being asked and the points that are being assigned. Okay, and max that are given here. The average walk score. Now, we talk about how you get your walk score, and there is a checklist, and there is a directional place where you can find how to attain your walk score. The last go-around that we had for this, people seemed pretty clear on it. They did supply that, and they did show their work. And we do have maximum 5 given for the points associated here. Again, I'm just going to ask questions as we go along. Charles.
So one of the questions we had after the last NOPA was, do we want to give points for someone to an application that, for the area that has a good walk score, that already has a good walk score, or do we want to give points for someone trying to improve the walk score? Thoughts?
I would think it might depend on the context of the environment, what kind of land uses and stuff like that going to the area.
Because that's where
Sometimes the walk score, it's great, but sometimes it can be a little bit, in some neighborhoods, there might not be as good of a representation. I don't know if you understand.
Well, again, we try to do our best to utilize one source that, and we know there might be some faults with how those calculations are made, but that's all we can do. So you're talking about the existing structure.
Right, so are we looking to, if you're doing a complete street, for instance, and let's say you don't have sidewalks, so your walk score is going to be pretty low. So in this case, do we want to look to improve the walk score? Or if they have sidewalks and people are already walking there, then do we want to reward them for having a good walk score?
Well, again,
That's the question we're getting at.
well, yeah, I think as it is laid out here, it is the former in the sense that if you have a bad area, you're going to get more points. If you have a good area,
No, actually, we've got it backwards right now. We're awarding you if you already have a good walk score and a good bike score.
No, I think.
No, you're awarding if you're.
This is the way it is. Below 50 points, you get the most points.
Okay.
So it is
My
a
bad.
walk score getting your points. That's where it's at now,
Which seems to make sense if you're trying to fill in the gaps and,
Right.
you know.
That was just something that the NOFA committee had trouble working with. It was like, do we want to, one way or the other?
Yeah,
I just think that's the way
The more
it
you
should
have to
be.
need.
If you have a bad walk score, you need that money. So,
Okay.
anybody else have any questions on that? Okay. Trip generators, question 2, within a half mile of the project area. Now, this has always been kind of a bone of contention in some places. Assign 1 point for every 10 businesses identified and list all generators, including businesses. And of course, bone of contention only because people got to go through the rigmarole of doing this. But obviously, we want to make sure that not only in complete streets, but any project that we can justify walking and biking to those locations that the complete street would be improving. So we do have quite a few points assigned to this particular question. Any comments on that as it currently stands?
Hey, Charles, didn't we change something to a quarter mile on the last one? Is that-
Yeah, on some of the other committees, they have a quarter mile.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up, but maybe. is it half
Actually,
mile?
I changed it to yards, converted
Oh,
it
you
from
did,
a quarter
yeah.
mile to yards,
You did yours.
to the property. Yards to the property, or a quarter mile to the property. Because some people, you could have a large employment area, building, business, and they could have a large parking lot. So do you include the property that they gotta walk across the parking lot or not? So they just clarified it to the property. So, and we did, in some of the other ones, we did mark it back down to a quarter yard, a quarter mile, or I think it was 227 yards, which equates to a quarter mile.
Again, a half mile is a comfortable 10-minute walk for people. So, and much quicker for a bicycle. Chuck?
If the infrastructure's there though, doesn't that play into, if there's a highway, a half mile as the crow flies, doesn't necessarily mean you can get there in 10 minutes, or traverse that half mile. And it's
You're
complicated.
talking, well, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, it's not a straight path.
Yeah,
It's
sure,
never
sure.
typically a straight path if you're trying to get a half mile away.
well, that's the thing. I mean, in a lot of cases, you're right, Chuck, that there are those obstacles. But again, that's why maybe you came down to your quarter mile or yards.
Yes.
Yeah,
So what does it take as a group? Keep it up half, go to a quarter?
and each one of these applications can be different. We went to the quarter mile because of the schools. But this is different. I mean, we're talking adults. We're not talking children walking to school.
What do you mean quarter mile for schools? Because
So
that's-
the other applications, we changed it to a quarter mile, mainly because to keep everything together. And we had it set because of the schools. So you're a quarter mile away from the school.
I mean, I think most schools have a policy that if you're a certain distance, that you have to walk to school. Isn't that like
Our
half
kids
mile
dropped
or
off by their
more?
parents, because that's really what's happening.
Yeah.
So,
I think a half mile's fine. We've been using it for years.
Yeah, I was just bringing it up because I knew the other committee I was at, they reduced it, so I was just letting you guys know.
I would leave it at half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Okay, so leave it at half mile.
Question 3, transit access. Half mile of the project areas, bus stops, commuter, Amtrak. That's what we have right here. So if you have more than one transit access, you get 3. If you have one type, you get 2. That's what we're at now.
How do you define transit access?
Well, that's what we're talking about. Within a half mile, you have a bus stop, a commuter rail stop, or an Amtrak station. Let's say a South Shore station, bus stop is part of
So
that.
commuter rail stop, not
Stop.
commuter rail.
No, stop.
Okay, I think you need to add the word stop into that sentence then.
I can do that.
Just because you might be within a half mile of a commuter rail. It may not stop anywhere near you.
I may not stop near you.
I like how you think, because people take advantage of that. Okay. Everything good otherwise? Okay. Again, if you have an aha moment, let me know. Like, oh, we'll go back to question 2, that's fine, that's what we're here. Okay, that's what it's about. Question 4. What are the number of dwelling units within a half mile of the project? And we did all this stuff with multipliers and what have you. We have a half mile buffer, convert the area to acres, square miles, so I'm not, no one told me there was math involved. No, I'm just saying, let's just take a look at what we got. We've had this on our application forever. And questions sometimes come up about, is this fair based on a lot of the densities of our communities? But again, a lot of these questions do point to infill development, that we're trying to work in our core communities where there is density and to give them a bit of an advantage if they're looking for projects within those particular areas. And again, keep that in mind as we're doing this. I know a lot of suburban areas cannot do this very well, but this is why we're talking. So any questions or comments on question 4?
Recommend to keep.
Yeah, I hear nothing, I just keep moving. Hold it. Okay. Question 5, adherence to universal design standards. And I think we had talked about UD standards in our, here's the NACDO website that you can go and figure that out. And sponsors claiming these points must explain how UD is incorporated. It's only 2 points, so it's not a crazy amount. And in the past, we've been pretty selective about this. People have claimed UD and we're like, that's not UD. So I think most applications do not ascribe to that. Of course, they might throw in the occasional bioswale and rain garden, but for now, I think it's worked out. Any other questions? Okay. A school within a quarter mile, here's your quarter mile. Maybe this is what you're talking about. So here's a quarter mile of the project, and what is the percentage of children that live within that quarter mile of the school? Obviously, we want to make sure that any complete streets project does facilitate safe routes to school as much as possible, and this is what we're doing. How we got to those percentages, how we got to those numbers, I don't know. But that's where we're at.
We have those are part of the maps.
The maps, there you go. So we have the justification for this, for doing your work and showing your work, but we talked about quarter mile already. Is there any other further questions on this question or the amount of points allocated?
Mitch, I've got a question on this one.
Yes, sir.
The metric is the current percent of children that live within quarter mile of school. Is that of all the people that live within quarter mile of school, what percentage of them are children? Or is it of all the children that attend the school, what percentage of them live within a quarter mile?
Yeah, attend the school.
I just think that's kind of
I can clear
created
it.
kind of unclear.
That makes sense. I see what you're saying. Yeah, it could be misinterpreted easily. You could argue. Attending that school.
Do we have the data if it went to a half a mile?
As you know,
I mean, or.
So we don't, actually, we cannot get the data of the percentage of children attending the school.
Yeah.
So what is it?
Because
How do
we-
have that?
Because in order to get that, we'd have to go to the school and get the numbers from the school.
They'd have to provide.
And
That's
they will
fine.
not do that.
I'm just asking, what did we ask you?
So we can go to our maps and look up the percentage of children that are living in an area.
So the
Right,
entire
using the population.
The entire population of that area, what percentage of them are
Right.
That might be a better metric.
And that's the only way we can do it, because we tried before going to the schools and asking them, what percentage of your children walk and what percentage of your children drive to school?
They don't.
And a lot of schools will not share that with you.
Or they don't have it. They
I
don't
have
do the math. Well, that's math. Are you talking about based on census tracts stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
so how you gonna know, how you gonna back that up?
Yeah, I think the discussion's gotta change, because you can't
So-
find that data.
If we can't find the data for the school, this does have to change that, I guess, Charles.
Or you go
So I
back to
mean,
what
the
is.
board may, you might be able to get it, but,
Transportation.
NERC cannot get that for, and a lot of, like I said, a lot of schools will not give out that information.
Now, if we come up
Here,
here,
everything, you find the 5 points.
we say a school is a trip generator up here at question two, okay?
But
Right.
then you got Catholic schools.
Now we're actually talking about the children of that school. Do we want to see if a school is within the census, if there's a school in the census tract of the project area, how many percent of the children live in that census tract that go to that school? Children, school-age children that go to that school? I don't know. Census tract, what is it?
I mean, we could just ask the number of children living within a quarter mile of the project.
Now, what is the census tract, what do they base children on? What age, do they go to an age cohort, like from 0 to 10 and 11 to 20? How do we break that
I'm
down?
not sure
Yeah.
if they would break it down further than 16.
'Cause 16 is too much for a lot of those schools.
I know.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, what's that?
But we can't, I don't know if we can break it down
Yeah.
beyond 15 and below and 16 and below.
So the intent of that question, Charles, is to know how many kids go to that particular school day.
That's what we wanted to ask,
So we have, like, for
but we
example,
can't get that.
by the Erie Trail, let's say there's Forest Ridge Academy, very expensive to go to. There may be, 20% live by that school, but guess what? Most of them go to a Lake Central school, because they're not going to that private school. So, it's,
Well, again, yeah, that's true. But we can't get into the weeds like that either.
Well, the intent was to figure out, our intent was to assume that people, that percentage would walk.
to that
For
particular
that
school.
School, and we can't get that data, we can't
Because
get
if it's
it.
a
Yeah, we're not
private
looking,
school
we
or-
can't really look at
Yeah,
private schools.
you can't even get the.
And I would argue now that parents drop off. I mean, in Chesterton, even at the middle school, there's a huge drop-off line. There's very little kids walk to school. I mean, I almost think the question's not relevant.
Well, but maybe that's because there's no pathways. I mean, I think if we want to, we're trying to encourage people to walk, period, right? I mean, so if there's a school,
Probably could get the attendance of the school, but again, some of them, I'm not sure we could.
That a larger attendance might translate to a larger percentage than on the walk.
I think it should
Just
just
by
be
having more.
generic points if there's a school within a half mile of the project.
Well, we already get the school here.
That's a generator, you're already getting points as a generator.
That's what I'm saying.
So do we eliminate the
Then
question?
eliminate the question.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm
Do
saying.
you have a
If
question?
we eliminate the question, we gotta find 5 points somewhere
Because
else.
even if you do population,
Well,
now you're
at
kind of like.
the end, you might not need to find more.
Like you said, Lake Central,
Well, no,
that's
we'll,
within half mile of your truck,
But
you
is
get
there
5,000. Right.
So at this point, is there agreement to eliminate?
You can't get, you gotta eliminate that question. We can't get that information. You wanna replace it with something. I don't know.
In the areas where.
Well, the population density we're kind of addressing that with the dwelling units.
But we could ask how many children, I guess, or
If we could ask a simple question, how many children are located within,
the project units.
well, every census tract, I guess we have to kind of figure out how they can measure that. And some census tracts are larger than others.
You could do block group, yeah.
Yeah.
You could do all the block groups within a distance.
Block groups.
They're smaller.
Well, they make up the census tract, don't they?
There's nowhere to get to school.
Yeah, that, I mean, I'm all for figuring this out objectively, so.
I don't like if it's gonna be if it's gonna be like size or quantity, I don't think that's fair. It's a smaller school system. I just don't, you can't compete. Like Central, if you're within half mile Lake Central, you're getting 5 points. You're, if it's a little elementary school or a private school, it has
It
a hard
just,
kid.
to me, it just sounds like we should eliminate it.
Yep.
So let me just put it in red for now, and put 5 points on the board.
Unless you would give points or if you have elementary schools.
Or you give a bonus point
Yeah.
if there's a school within, a quarter mile, maybe you get one bonus point.
Do we take schools out of the other question and just say, is there a school within?
Quarter mile.
That's true, so if we go over here,
Take out the traffic generators
Instead of,
and make its own.
But then give them, you give them, what, like, there's 2 schools?
Yeah,
then
you
you're-
may have 2
You have 2
schools.
schools, you give them like a point per school, or I don't care. Some schools, you might have 3 schools you've done your project.
They may have a parochial and then a
Yep.
hold on a second.
I like that idea, it's a point per school. If you don't have any, is 0.
then you're not getting in the size of the school.
Right.
You're just getting-
So that would be, you would get points for that in this question here, because you have a number of trip generators. 10 or more. So if you had 3 schools, you're getting 3 points.
Yeah,
You're getting close to that 10 or more.
Oh, yeah, you're cutting yourself short from getting more points up here.
let's keep that, let's put that in the parking lot for now.
Put something over on the side or something.
Now just write it. Well,
Just put something in the emergency column, emergency box.
It sounds like the kids don't want to.
Kids don't want to.
That's what discussed, good question, yeah.
School.
all right, let's move on.
but the opportunity's gotta be there. And if we're creating the
Um,
opportunity, then if they can walk, that's still a choice.
So we have the regional policy plans relationship. This is a pretty straightforward one, but maybe not, because we've had questions before about what plans work. Now, again, this almost gets to a project-by-project basis, depending on what plans have been approved in a particular entity and what they can come forward with. But, you know, we don't, it says plans and policies right here, plans and policies may include, so we're not locking it down to just this. So we've kept it flexible. So the question is, are we good with it, and are we good with the points?
So this is a plan that's already been taken before your council.
Yeah.
So it's been something that's been taken before and adopted by your council, so it's not something that, hey, town council, can we, just accept this and I get some points?
And school districts are also in there, so any kind of governmental entity that has authority on that issue. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna keep moving. And then it says that's local, and then we have region.
He likes those. Did you skip 6, 7, 8 on purpose, or did I
Did I
miss
skip
it?
that? No, I didn't, did I? What did
Skip
I
eight,
I
you
did this
skipped
on, okay, I am losing my mind, I'm sorry.
Okay, I just thought maybe I didn't hear it.
Oh, it's me, I'm Polish, just go with me here, hold on. Let me get rid of this. Here's what I want to do. I'm proudly Polish, we emphasize that. Okay, Q7. How does the project assist with job commuters? Okay. So we do have a map for that, and obviously that map is what we set aside to delineate the points approved here. So they come in different areas and they get different points assigned. So do we have a question on using this map going forward? Are we good with these points? Okay. Does the project include green infrastructure? These may include stormwater and all this. Now this gets into,
This one, we've set it up for square yards. You get a percentage point. I didn't change this one.
Yeah,
But on the other ones, we went down to square yard, because you could have on a corridor project, and the way this is written, you could have a corridor project, and you could have 3 tiny bioswales of, say, 10 square yards apiece, and you would get points for having 3 of them, when they're only 30 square yards, and overall, they're not gonna do anything.
Yeah, I like what we did in that other group, it should be square yards.
Yeah.
To make it just, otherwise somebody's just throwing a token rain garden in.
so what are we doing here? So the points are.
Right, my shirt.
Don't give away your secrets, John.
So best square yard is yes.
We'll fix that, at least if we have agreement here with the month, okay? Because
Yeah.
Charles has this.
Coneflowers.
We talked about the local plan, the regional plans, it's the same thing. We have, obviously, our regional plans that do echo quite a few projects that are in the area that could be somehow brought into this application process. The question is, we have 5 points allocated for us, 3 points for local. Is that backwards? Should we have it the other way around? If you had 3 or more policy or plans in your community, don't you think you should get more points? I mean, that's a question. Because the thing about regional plan, as much as I love talking about my job, and I love it, I need to keep in mind that things can be pretty vague at the regional level, where you get a lot more detail and focus at the local level. So my thought is maybe we switch those points around.
But I think, Mitch, if it's such a significant project that it is identified in the regional plan.
Well, yeah,
then
if it's
it
identified,
should
yes.
receive more points.
But maybe it's,
It's likely that if it's in a regional plan, it's also in a local plan. It could receive bonus points for being regionally significant.
and there's that argument. So anybody else want to comment? Are you good with the points, or do you think they should be switched? What do you think?
I would think, in the essence of complete streets, would probably be more of a localized thing, but more locally important to the council or whatever is adopted, and get more push to do it, and maybe more impactful for the community itself. City basis, or other town, or whatever,
So you're thinking it should be switched?
connection wise,
Anybody else? Mark's on the fence there. Mark Odell. I mean, it could be if, no, I totally agree, John, about that. But again, a lot of these projects aren't clearly identified in our plan either. And I guess if it does, maybe they get an extra 3 points instead.
The only thing that I would mention is that our recently adopted NW 150 Plus has a whole list of complete streets.
It does. From our, yeah, we've actually identified quite a bit. So,
Or maybe if like the points were 10 or it was just 3, you get 3 points. It's like a bonus. It is 3 points if you have your
Well,
own region. If
how
you're in
about
the region, 0.
how about this? We have 5 points to play with right now.
Yeah.
So maybe we just kick up the local to 5 too.
Why are we trying to get to
Or
100?
we
Because
can,
that,
why don't we wait till at the end and see what our point total is?
Okay.
yeah.
I just thought 2 is, but again, I'm just spitting here. Okay. We'll come back to that. That was no question mark. All right. So read the one about the legacy project below. It is slated, a legacy is defined to be a standalone project or a phase of a project that has approved NEPA, or the project or phase has already been received federal through NERC. If so, give the DENS number. It's pretty straightforward.
So if that was a project that was previously awarded, and let's say this current one is repaving of that same project?
No, so if we didn't have enough funds previously to award for construction, but we have some extra funds laying on the table after we sorted through and awarded all the projects, and let's say we had an extra $200,000 on the table, we could give it to the next project or PE or right-of-way, and that would therefore make them a legacy project, so that at the next NOFA, they would get extra points for already having started the project and going on. Because we need to finish those projects.
So if it's in the tip, even if they had PE or right
If
away.
it's in the tip, yeah.
Then
Does it approve NEPA even matter in that statement? I don't think it matters. Because you give it the option of just even being funded with a DES number, which is easier. So if we're gonna go that far back, I mean, the NEPA doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I'm reading that right.
and it is harder now to get a DESNO, or to get a NEPA document approved.
I mean, because you could be still sitting back there with, on the PD side, still
Yeah, and that's,
smoking along and not getting that far, and you don't have to NEPA approved, but.
But, I mean, that's just probably an example.
Before you-
I think the carryover makes a lot of sense. I guess, the way that I'm reading that is if you've been funded ever,
Right.
you can qualify for that.
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it.
I don't know if we want that to be a recipient of those points. If you're, I'm Highland, I just want to repave my Erie Lackawanna, that was.
Well, it's an active project, isn't it?
No, it's, I'm kind of going on what he's saying is, if we want it to be a legacy project, but it still has to have the NEPA approved, then we need to rephrase that and keep the NEPA in there, but if not, then it's just if it has a DES number and we haven't gotten anywhere. I think that's our two choices. But it's already an active project with a DES number, right?
Yeah,
It's not a closed project.
Right.
It's not like, oh, you got that 10 years ago.
I mean, I can reword that if it's already has funding for PE or highway.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
And with an open DES number,
Yeah, it has to be
I
active.
mean,
An active-
active does, I mean, I think that's the key of changing that, putting that, something in there, that there's an active one that's still out
So again, the active.
Use that 99 DES number you used to work for. Did you ever get that bridge cut?
We're working on it.
How was that DES number?
It's an old one.
I got this on.
Anything outside
I
the
got it.
ten's out.
You're gonna get
Charles
back
gave us
in.
some help recently, that's nice.
So I put your injection there, Mark, with active. And he'll figure out the PE stuff on the other end, so we'll clear that up. Okay, question 12, adherence to complete streets design standards. We have a resource. There is your link to that resource there, the atpolicy.org site. We've had for quite a while. And we can easily match what they're trying to do to that. And we have substantial minimum and no. If you have no adherence, I don't know why you're applying. But anyway, that's where we're at with the points. Any questions?
Yeah, how do you determine the minimal to
That's what I mean.
substantial?
It's kind of subjective.
Yeah, I mean, is that the committee that's,
Yeah.
or is that
we have a
the
review
trails
committee.
are that?
No, it's not the trails are. I mean,
So that's gonna come down to, it is an opinion, but it's coming down to what you present to us, you put in your 5 points, and we look at it and says, you know what? That's really not substantial, so we're gonna knock it down to 2. And then at the committee meeting, you would talk about it amongst everyone here and go through and say, well, we're claiming this, this, and this. It's an $8 million project, and this is a little bit of stuff, it's not substantial. So that's where you're gonna come out, where the group decides whether it's substantial or not.
Can you get 3 or 4, or is it
No.
just 2 or 5?
It's 2 or 5.
Well, it's what you want. I mean, that's what we're talking.
No, I mean, we set it down to, it's either 5 or 2.
That's, you're
So
locked
the
in.
points are.
Then you don't
weighted.
have a choice, Chuck. Again,
We have to keep it that way, because if we did, then what's the difference between minimal and substantial?
right. I think it's one of those things you know when you see it. You know, if you have a particular corridor, you only see a few mid-block crossings, and that's it. Okay, that's minimal.
And then you could, and then one group could give points for substantial, could give 4 points, another group could give 3 points, and then, so now you're arguing back and forth. Well, you just
got 4.
Yeah,
Sure.
so that's why we keep it, as you can only get those amounts.
Yes, we've been through the wars. Okay, very good. Number 13, how does a project contribute to asset management? Contact Scott Weber. We have paver rating assessments here, and we have Bridger Road is greater than figures listed above. Pazer rating is pretty much what it is for that particular corridor. So, any questions on this? As you can see, it gets quite a bit of the score. Of course, if it's less than, apparently we're just trying to say we're going to award projects that need help.
Right.
Okay. What is the functional classification of the route? It's a principal arterial. You can see we're encouraging people to turn our principal arterials to more of a complete fashion. So that's why we give them a higher number. And of course, that's where you're gonna have most of your destinations and your traffic going through. The principal arterial, give me an idea, but is that like 30?
What's that, principal arterial?
Yeah.
Yeah,
30,
that'd be 30, I-60,
not
well,
I-65.
not I-65. But like US 30, Broadway, 41,
State roads.
State Road 2.
So,
to the port.
again, that's what we're trying to get to here. We're trying to, everyone who says Route 30 cannot be walked on, it's like, yeah, well, yeah, right now it can. But there's also every destination under the sun on Route 30, and there are many people that live, this guy doing his work in Valpo, they have a great trail now around Valpo, so people can access those places. We don't have that in many other places in the region. That's why we want to see that happen more and more.
So the vet trail would count, because that's on 231?
The vet trail, well, again, it depends on the project. If you're including the vet trail in the project of 231, it's a complete street, so that's how we have to figure that out. Usually, that project is standalone multi-use trail usually. Yeah. Unless the state came in and said, well, we're gonna pave this from there and we're gonna redo the vet trail, okay, but then that's a state project, it doesn't come up with it. So there's all sorts of, shell
Yeah,
games.
this is, you gotta keep in mind, this is a complete street project, complete street application.
They can't get any of that local, that one funding source, Charles, you brought up, that locals could apply, on local street could apply for.
That could be for something else, I mean,
but-
and in the grand scheme of things, we wanna talk to you before you apply or send in your application, because we'll answer your question. And what may work for Chesterton may not work for Cherville or LaPorte. So,
Okay. So we're looking at, the next one at 15, about ADT. And, I think the more ADT, the better it gets. Because obviously we need more separated facilities when the roadway becomes busier. So that, I think, sticks out. Again, that's something we can debate, putting more points to, if you think that's a better, we have a lot of points for the classification, do we want more points for ADT? That's something we can talk about. And that's very objective. Where we get those numbers from. Okay, now we get into partnerships and collaboration. By the way, there's a lot of cross-pollination between this and multi-use trails, so there will be some redundancy. Do the project limits cross municipal county boundaries? And again, partnerships involving 3 or more LPAs. Now, again, the project has to cross into those areas. So you can't just give me a support letter from an adjacent neighborhood.
well, that's different, this is just whether or not it crosses boundaries.
Well, that's the actual. Well, it's different in the sense that the funding agreements, but.
Yeah, but this one is, question 16 is, does it cross boundaries?
Right,
And
it
that's
crosses.
just, so we kind of separate that.
There has been a question about if the project touches another boundary, if it goes to the actual edge of the community. But my thing is, well, it's not,
Does it cross?
it doesn't
It's
cross
not
the.
partnership.
Right, is there any inches into that community? No? Okay. Pretty simple. Okay, so if you have a roadway that goes through 3 LPAs, you're gonna get 3 points. Down we go. All right, and then funding agreements. This is the one that people have been hung up on about sending us letters of support. And we've also had the problem of people saying, okay, we're gonna contribute $100 to the project so we get ourselves some points. So we have to have.
And we have people, in the past, we've had one community say, well, I'll give you $100 for your project if you give me $100 for mine. So we've tried to discourage that, and one of the ways we do that is I keep track of it, so I'll just take $100 off. And then when you ask for that, I'm like, well, you said you were getting $100, so why should I count that in?
So I think we have to talk about that. How much skin are we talking about when it comes to funding? Because right now it's very general.
Would be a percentage point?
Because, you know, an advocacy group can say, hey, we're giving you $5, we win, we got skin in the game. And it's like, well, to an advocacy group, $5 is a lot of money. Okay, right, Chuck?
I mean, about $5.
So is it more a percentage, Charles and Mitch, than the amount?
That's what I'm asking, should it be a percentage amount?
Because like with the Dyer one, we're gonna be doing, I mean, it's pretty much a 50-50, it's based on distance, but with the next level of trails we did with county, again, we based it on distance, so that was more like a 60-30, you know, split. So, you know, if you're saying, hey, $100 when you got 2 feet across the boundary into the, sure. You know, it seemed like a percentage would make sense of, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess from my perspective, what is the point of this criteria?
Local,
We
partnership
want to have people
planning
work
agency.
together, but
So even
to
that
the
seems
extent that
should be changed to the
diversity
first.
in the region benefit from this funding agreement, unless that funding is going to be, you know, federal, they're going to forego federal funding because they found some other partner who can pick up a portion of the funding.
For the local match.
But if there's 20% local match and they're splitting it up between 5 different groups, who cares? I mean, what's the difference? If one community can fund it by themselves, or if another group has 2 partners that they split the local match with.
Well, no, I see your point, Tom. I also think that if the community is trying to be good to their taxpayers and they're able to find private money to raise half of the local match, no matter what it is, I think that's a good thing too.
Yeah, but they're already receiving the benefit, that community is receiving the benefit by having a partnership. Just by virtue of the fact that their own local match is diseased.
So you're just advocating for it above the local match minimum.
That's what I would think, like, for example, you got Indiana and DOT, I mean, so if they're going to pick up a portion of the, you know, what we would otherwise run with federal funds, I think that that's good for the program as a whole.
Do you understand his point? Everyone understand what Tom's talking about? That really the minimum amount is, what's the point? You have to, if this is going to be a special amount for points, then it should be above. It should get rid of that overmatch category.
Could be a land match, right? If you have an advocacy group that has property or some other
That's
foundation,
That's another thing
it
too.
wouldn't be a dollar amount necessarily. It might be-
Well, you would get an appraisal of
Yeah.
that square, whatever you're donating.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
land.
we can't execute that before the award.
Right, you can't. you know,
Well, it'll still bring the cost down. They can't apply it to the application, but again, it's less land for them to buy, right?
Well, no, it would bring the cost down because they're gonna ask for that money for right of way or something like that.
Oh, no, that's what I mean. So, I'm not saying you can apply it to a federal grant beforehand, you can't, but it's less land to buy. So that's another option. So, hey, hot pickings. So what are we thinking here, guys?
I think it's tough to include some of those agencies versus like an advocacy groups. I mean, the advocacy groups, I don't see them given as potentially big dollar amounts compared to some of the others. I wonder if that shouldn't be split into 2 questions and have, just to show that there's some buy-in by somebody. And, you know, maybe we take and cut it down into half the points into 2 questions. But, I mean, I can get 3 Friends of the Parks Foundation who give us $500 each, and I'm hitting at my 3 or more LPAs. I don't even know if they
And that would
truly
really
would
be an
consider an
LPA.
LPA.
Right, then how do we verify that? Then my next level is like, if I say I'm giving Cherville $100 and they're giving me $100, where does NERC ever go back and check that? Like,
Actually, I do keep track of that now.
yeah, but if it gets to be 4 or 5 or an after.
No, because I've had people come to me
Yeah,
and
but
say,
funding commitment.
they're, you know, we're gonna take care of the CE, for instance, the construction and engineering. Or we're gonna take care of the PE, and then they come back and say, you know, we'd like to get the PE. Like, well, on your NOVA application, you said you were gonna be covering the PE.
So you're monitoring that so they
I'm
can't.
monitoring that, so when you come and ask for it, and then I go into my program of projects, there's a note there that says,
Chesterton's paying for the PE.
right, and then you're asking for PE, I'd say, no, I'm not gonna
Okay.
give you the PE because you already said you were gonna pay for it on your own.
Okay,
But a lot of times you don't have the money even now. I guess what I was getting at is like, this is the NOPA, and if Church X is gonna give Chesterton $500, when the project comes around, like, they're not giving me the $500 in 2024 for a 2029 project. Like, how are we gonna track that? That's why I don't like this question, like, it's, especially for an advocacy group, like you're bringing up, and it's like, that there's no transaction until the project happens.
If they got chosen, I would suspect that you would collect that money sooner than later.
well,
To your point, Mark, because you go and you ask the church council,
Church council,
can you give me a check for $1,000?
Yeah.
And then,
they can
make
make,
years later, the accountant is going back and saying, whatever happened to $1,000?
Yeah, whatever
We give the city to do a project.
I say people.
or they read,
Project
Or-
never happened.
the project never happened, they don't wanna do it now, it's a new council. I mean, I don't know, me personally, I just don't like the
Yeah.
question kind of, I just feel like it's kinda,
You don't like the question at all?
not really, because it's,
Okay.
there's a lot of ways to manipulate the system in this question.
Well, and it has been.
Mhm. No, I know, that's what my.
But I'm also gonna say this,
That's my point.
if NDOT, if you did find that, if a foundation said, we're gonna put $10,000 into this project, or a school district, or some corporation, I think that needs to be lauded, especially if it's a private property donation. I think we need to encourage that type of activity. And let me just read this out to you the way I'm looking at it, in a way of revision. Are there any funding or land agreements committed with other partners? You can say, please describe the partnerships including entity, funding amount, and a minimum percentage of the total amount of the project for funding. Whatever you want to say, 1% minimum. And then an amount of property being donated, and then we can talk about that. It gets subjective when we get to the review stage, but at least it gives a little bit more clarity for them when they can't come in with $100 checks. That's an idea. Of course, it doesn't address the thing you're talking about, Tom.
Yeah.
We could simply say, funding amount, 1% minimum over minimum match. Like minimum match, this has to get into the overmatch category. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
That the community should be on the hook for at least the minimum 20%. We're talking about stuff that gets into the overmatch category. That's what Tom's talking about.
Yeah, we don't have that covered anywhere yet.
We have overmatch covered, but we don't have it covered here. This is right now Wild West right now, this question.
This should be more of a letter of financial commitment versus a funding agreement, because you're probably not gonna have a formal agreement with the two towns or whatever until you get the award.
There needs to be a letter committing to this. Obviously, a letter from the entity that, you know, if like, okay, what's around here? Family Express. Gus Olympus gets really generous one day, and he has a road in front of his place, and he wants to see this done. He says, I'm gonna give you 20 grand. Let's get this done. He gives us a letter that says that. That's good enough. And you can follow it. So what happens is that gets put into the quarterly reporting and everything else, and they have to come up with that at the front end that, okay, you need that as committed, but you have to have it committed before, I don't know what, you know, before you start in with your contract with NDOT, I guess you can make that, you know.
Yeah, I guess, but it can't go towards construction.
No,
It has to be like you said, PE right away, so because construction, they could renege at that point, and they've already got the point, like they're in the system. Like, how do you?
that's it, you gotta get them before they go into a contract
Right.
with NDOT. But that's down the line, I think that's due diligence that we have to work on as a staff. But as for the question itself, does that sound like, again, let me read it out. Please describe after partnerships, including entity funding amount, minimum 1% of total amount as an overmatch. And then the next is property donated, and then that would clarify who is an actual partner. Does that sound like a reasonable solution? I'm gonna type it out.
I like John's idea where you had that example where it was 50-50, like, it's had, like, that's two communities doing a project together, that should get points.
Well, that would be partnerships, just with the community crossing the boundaries.
Yeah, but with both, I'm gonna get a partnership and I'm gonna get a funding agreement bonus. I'm gonna get both.
Well, that's it, we have
Well,
LPA
that
2
would
points,
just
we
be
get at
one
least 3
LPA,
points
so
for
you
that.
didn't get any points. It's not even 1 point.
Well, if we're gonna change it to percentage of the project, then maybe that's, I mean, 'cause that's a huge, that's, when you got enough two communities going together to split a project, that's a big.
Well, we got funding, with the town of Dyer is the lead, but we're committed to them. You know, it was more of a commitment, now we're getting into a more of a formal, you know, agreement with the attorneys to draft. But according to this, we wouldn't have gotten any points, even though we've got with the town of Dyer and we're sharing costs. It doesn't matter from a point perspective, because there's nothing there for one partnership, well,
Yeah.
you know.
But you are getting points because you're crossing boundaries.
Okay, that's how I revised it.
Griffith involved too.
Does this revision work for people?
To get the friends of.
You just go.
Oh, minimum of 1% sports and over.
Yeah, we have
Other regional entities, there's
utility,
pipeline.
would a utility be
Sure.
considered that?
Other regional entities, they're a regional entity.
Again, it doesn't matter, it's a corporation, it's
Private business,
Yeah.
anybody. Other
Private
regional entities
sector.
are
Yeah.
anybody.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave it here. If somebody else has, you know, a wild idea to come back to it, please let me know. So back to now question 20, this was revised, you wanna talk about that, Charles?
Slide over to the right.
This one?
Yeah. So there's a question about question 20 here because it's kind of saying and asking the same thing.
Okay, so they're saying the same thing, let's go back to it. It kinda is.
This-
We're getting a hell of a lot of points for it. So you eliminate it? Is it redundant, is it kind of convoluted? Or put 7 points into the kitty? Okay,
Yeah, I think you should go.
let's get rid of that. Now we're up to 12 points.
I think we're more than that.
Oh, we're only-
More or less than that. We'll see at the bottom.
No, it doesn't add up.
Yeah, it is.
It does? Oh, 88, we're down to 12, yeah, 12 we're down. I'm sorry to see that. Okay, you got rid of 21 altogether, that's nice. Now here's the
What about
overmatch.
it? What about the one right?
Yeah, overmatch? What is the overmatch? And this has been consistent for years. Greater than 30%, 5, and everything stares down from there. How's that sound, guys? Good? Okay. 22, status of the design engineering for the proposed project. This is project readiness. So the max 2 points, design engineering has started with a contract in NEPA. 2, nothing's been done, nothing.
Does that one even matter?
Yeah, once again, like there, we always throw like NEPA in there, Charles, and I'm like,
You can't get NEPA unless you.
have an LPA contract.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I'm always like, we'll keep doing.
So, I mean, if you want it, we can take that one out too. It's to the point now where all these projects have to go through NDOT's process. And if you do not have a debt number and you do not have a construction date, you will not get a NEPA approval or even a review.
Yeah.
Is that fuzzy? My eyes are fuzzy. Okay.
Maximum 2 points, so you're not giving out 1 point, right?
We'll just get rid of it.
All or nothing.
Goodbye. Okay, so that's now down to 14 points on the table. You got rid of railroads. Why, Charles? Why? Tell us why.
Because we're
We're down to 50 points.
we got rid of railroads because first off, we asked if there's a railroad involved. And 2, we are penalizing you for having a project that crosses a railroad.
I get that. Okay. I agree.
And with the amount of railroads we have in this area, it's hard to have a project that you don't have a railroad at the table, or at least a flagging railroad.
All right, so it's a project location, 24, in an EJ area. EJ is big to us, 50%, less than 50, not. That's been pretty straightforward for years. Okay? I think the only thing there we can talk about are maybe more points assigned to the EJ area. 25, crashes. A motorized and non-motorized crash rate in the area. And high, medium, and low locations or other location. So 5 points is given there. Any questions on that one?
I would probably change that and add, I think that's just coming from the maps. Yeah, so that comes from the maps.
Non-motorized and motorized, both on there.
So,
Okay, that's straightforward.
so we're not looking at, I mean, it's a heat map, so, and it's listed as high, moderate, and low. And, so it's not subjective in any way.
So the one thing, Charles, that I might suggest you add is something that addresses fatal and incapacitating crash rates.
So we could add ICC and ICF.
Yeah, I mean, if we can put that together, that would be ideal.
Okay.
In this question,
No, I can add that. You want it in this question instead of this question, or you want just a question?
I'm not suggesting one way or the other, I just think we should address it, because you can have, for example, a very high crash rate, but it could be in a parking lot, right? Next to a bunch of fender benders in a parking lot.
Okay.
Whereas, really what we're trying to address is the more severe crashes, which are
Well,
fatal and incapacitating.
the high location is an area calculation. But what is the measurement area of these high locations? Are they based on street corridor? Are they based on a census tract? Are they based on a block? What's in these areas? Because again,
Currently or in the future? Like looking
what
at
are
right
we
now?
looking at now?
Right now, we just have, it's just a whole blob dots of crashes, and then we put together as a heat map of where the most likely occur.
And do we show fatalities and
No, none of that's in there.
We don't delineate.
So, but I can add that, I can add another question there.
You just
Asking
ask
the ICF and ICC,
question 26.
the index of crash costs and the index of crash frequencies.
All right, so if we're doing that, let's talk about the points. We're now at the end, so we have 14 points scored.
I'll
So,
probably add that to all the questions, so
all where?
all the NOPE applications, I'll probably add that.
Oh, you mean for the general?
Yeah,
Okay, for not this one, okay. Now we're at the end of this one, we have 14 points to play with. Do we have any ideas where to put those, based on what we talked about? Do we want to talk about funding? Do we want to talk about project crossing limits? Do we want the ADT to go up from 2 to another number? Let's talk about that. So let me take the 14.
so I just, a point of information, every year, Federal Highway releases a project emphasis area. Is that what it is, PEA? So, planning emphasis area. They let everybody know where they want to concentrate their efforts for that year. This year, in most years, EJ is up there. They announce that EJ is an important area. This year is heavily skewed towards safety. Because during COVID, people started driving faster because there were less people on the streets. And then when COVID went away, when the pandemic went away, people kept driving those speeds. And driving as carelessness as they were during COVID. So the crash, the safety has pretty much been thrown out the window like a bag of litter, so to speak. So we are going to be concentrating on safety in this NOPA and giving extra money, extra points towards safety. So if we ask for the ICC and the ICF, I think should be at least 5 points for that, so.
Well, we're not asking it on this application.
Well, if we were talking about adding ICF and ICC at the bottom,
I mean, again, are you asking that for the general applications, for all of them? That's what I'm saying, Charles. But then we're
some
asking-
questions are gonna be on all the applications.
Okay. So you want to do an extra question for ICC and ICF?
Yeah, so I'll just put one in there and we can give
5.
5 points to it, so.
Okay, so we're now down to, we're down now to 9 points. 9 points. Where do we want to put 9 points?
So you had 12. Are you at 7?
Well, we had 14, you took 5, now we're down to 2. At least that's what my Purdue math says. I'm usually wrong at this, I'll just let you know.
And that's why, yeah, it's on that.
I know.
By adding that one you just added, along with EJ still being in there, I mean, is that unfavorably going to impact those areas, those communities? I mean, that, to the ones that don't fall into that?
For the ICCs, I mean, for,
Yeah.
You're not penalizing the roads that don't have a high crash rate, you are incentivizing communities to fix the roads that do have a high crash rate.
much like everything else we're doing with the application. Like where sidewalks are not. and everything. So let's just go through this. We have 9 points. Are we okay with the non-motorized and crash rate in project area 5? Okay. How about,
Do we have to get to 100 points? Is that what your goal is?
yes, we're trying to get to, I mean, yes, we do.
We can't just say max is 88?
No,
All right.
no, I'm not doing that.
Mitch, like
I know it's an odd
Why is
question.
max 91? I'm not going there.
What is added up to?
Because, yes, John?
like on 24, did you want to add just a suggestion, 25 to 50% and put 1 point? If you're trying to,
25 to 50%, 1 point.
if you're trying to look for a spot to. put
Well, that
some-
still would be a point, I'm still looking at a max number. So in this case, would we assign 50% or more within the project area at 7 points instead of 5?
You look at question 25, you got 5 points, 3 points, 1 point, and then 24 is 5, 3, and it goes to 0, so.
Yeah,
But we're looking at the max
The
points.
max points are what we're looking. I mean, yeah, we can add another category for EJ. If it's 25 to 50%, I mean, we can do that. But that's not the question at hand. The question is, what are our max points that we want to give? Do we want to give 5 points? Are we okay with that as an EJ, or do we want to give more?
We can,
No,
You're good with 5?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. And we got rid of the status of engineering. Do we want the overmatch to be more of an incentive? It's at 5 now. We want to keep it?
Yep.
Okay. Funding agreements with local partners, we're up to 6. And then we have the boundaries at 3. What do you think of those, questions 16 and 17? Do we want to award more for partners if they're coming in at more than a percentage, or they have property, if they're going with the overmatch, or give them more?
I think that was still gonna be abused enough, though.
Okay.
I still don't like it, I'm gonna
I
give it
think
4 points.
16, you could go to 5. for
Yeah, I think you could increase 16. yeah,
Crossing
16.
3 or more, I mean, that's pretty cut and dry there.
We'll just put this to, you want to go 5? Or you want
Can you
to
give
well, I
one
can
point?
adjust that. I can adjust those. He just still keep 5 points as the max, then I'll.
You could get from one partnership, you could get point, you could always do that.
Yeah.
You get one,
Well, partnership with 2 LPAs, no, I guess one partnership would be 1 point. Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
you could do it 1 point. No march. It's obvious, you could say.
I'll just.
Well, we were looking at one partnership, that's with myself.
Well, no, right, that's.
Well, it means crossing.
That's what that
Well, yeah,
partnership with 2
But I-
LPAs is.
yeah, it should be 2 because I think somebody tried in the past, remember, they were like, well, it's this. I'll just pick me, my street department doing something, and my park department combining, like, it's like,
Right,
no.
we slapped that down.
Yeah, I know, we did, somebody tried to do that. and I was
Why
like,
we changed it to LPAs.
I know, I was like,
No, it was crazy at first.
It was.
Everyone
park department supports us, street department, economic
Yeah.
development department supports us, and the
utility department.
beautification supports us.
So wait, what partnership with two LPAs is Chesterton and Belleville? That's two.
Well,
That would
if the
be-
project is in Portage, you have to have two more.
Okay, so you're saying beyond this?
Beyond your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're Portage, you have an agreement with Chesterton, that's 1 point.
Yeah.
It's not two, you can't count yourself.
Right, yeah, I agree.
That should be noted and clarified.
City, county?
I'll clarify that.
Clarify away. The ADT of the road, do we want to increase
Two other
that?
LPAs.
We're now down to 7 points. We have 7 points left. Do we want to increase from 2 points to another point for max for ADT?
Doesn't this fit right into the safety?
Yeah?
Yeah,
You want to do up to 4 or 5 for that?
yeah,
4 points, sounds good.
you
How
go
about-
4 and 2,
4?
642.
6-4-2, or 6,
You think it should get 6?
No, 4.
maybe we can get,
Do you want to give something for any ADT for under 1,000, 8,000? It's 0 now. Do you want to give at least a point for that?
You should get a point, I mean. if
You want to break it down to 4? I could do something like
Yeah, 4 to 8 is the.
4 to 8, 8 to
Yeah, 4 to 8 is
12,
1, 4 to 8 is
greater
1.
than 12.
yeah, I would put a
Yeah.
bottom on that.
Yeah,
not-
4 to 8 is 1.
I'll just do
Who's the
that.
collector? Maybe 3.
and
So
then
we're at 4. Now we're down to 5 points. We have 5 points. left.
Change, Mitch, on your top there, put max 4 points given.
Oh, Charles will take care
I'll take care of that.
What was that again?
No, Charles will help change the.
Okay, ADT is 4. Functional class is at a pretty heavy 8, so I think that'll stay. Asset management's at 5. I guess we'll keep it there.
I'm just curious, does every community use Baser? Do you know?
Yes,
Yes, you have to.
you have to use that for your asset management with,
To get
I just
CCMG.
didn't know if anyone smaller communities said, we don't have capability or something. That would-
it's actually, you don't need, anybody could do
Yeah,
Basil
you
rating.
can do, we do them in-house, so,
I think everybody does them in-house.
yeah, you don't need a consultant.
The counties do it on incorporated areas.
Yeah,
You need a consultant.
it's something simple, you could go out and do Basil rating. I mean, you're looking at a book and you're saying, okay, this section of the street looks like this. It is somewhat subjective, but the whole idea is you're subjective across, because you're the same across.
All right, let's keep going. We've got 5 points to play with, people. 5 points on the table. So let's talk about
So,
complete streets.
and Mitch, if I can interject a little bit on this.
Always.
This is kind of like I don't know if I'd worry too much about the specific number of points in the categories you get, because we've got feedback from other committees that we're going to bring in and synthesize and then come back out. So we may, we also have to look at our ability to provide the data underlying this, and how we're going to format that. So some of this stuff might get
Well, this
changed a
This
little
shouldn't,
bit.
though. This shouldn't, at least because this is the group reviewing this application. So that's what I'm questioning. Because I'd like to at least figure out from this group, because they're the ones, I think you're talking about the general applications, aren't you?
I'm talking about kind of all of them, we're gonna have to bring it all together and, again, just, you're talking about how we're gonna figure out, crashes and this, that, and everything. Some of that stuff is gonna be dependent on our ability to produce that data and formulate it in a way that makes sense, so that.
I guess this is just an exercise to let us know where their report is, and then we can gauge it from there.
Exactly.
So let's just say, from Tom's perspective, nothing is final today, but it's guiding us towards that end. And most likely, we may have another meeting ahead of the final release, just to kind of refine all of this.
Yeah.
So, all right. We have 5 points, though, and complete streets is at 5. Do we want to keep it there, or do we want to jack it up? It is a complete streets application.
How many points we have available?
5. We have 5 left.
You could give 2 to the legacy, we always, we're trying to get those guys, get them done and out of here. Maybe make that 5, and then add the other 3 to the big streets. It's just a suggestion, it's just a, throwing it out there. I
What
don't
do people
know.
think?
Yeah, that's a good point. You
We're just
wanna,
trying to get those legacies
yeah,
going.
Okay. Before we give the 3 points away to
Yeah.
complete streets, let's just go through here.
Give us something else.
We still have this question at our hands about trip generators. But let's talk about everything else. UD standards.
You figure out the church thing, the school thing,
You mean the trip generators?
both.
We want to give, we have 3 points. We want to give some more to the walk score one, or we want to? Yeah, we still are kind of stuck on that whole school thing. Do we want to be stuck there, or we just want to punt and say it's just a generator? Or do we want to give 3 points to something school-based for children? I don't know. Do schools, do you get, if you're in a school district, you get an extra 3 points or something, or for the school, you get an extra 3 for a school? I don't know.
Kind of like the extra 2 points for the local plans that may include schools or whatever.
You mean down here, local plans and policies, kick that to 5?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. So that's what we talked about before. Thanks for remembering
School
that,
districts.
Paige. We have 1 point. That's all we have is 1 point left, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to give it to, I'm going to propose to give it to, what do I give it to? Transit access? If there's more than one, they get.
Why don't you give it to EJ?
How about EJ?
3.
EJ to 6?
I think question 3 should go.
Which one?
question 3.
3, question 3.
Coming up. There it is. Transit access. Kick that to 4?
I'd rather give it there than EJ.
We're at 5 on a lot of the other questions,
Yeah.
and why are these that are, the ones that are 3 so low in comparison? I mean, if they're, I think
That's just how time has shaped
How about you
out.
do the dwelling ones? I mean, if we're trying to give people access, I mean, the ones with the dwellings within that walking area.
I'll give you 4
Within a
for
quarter
that.
mile of the house.
Well, that's the one where you're trying to.
That's a
You
big
get
one.
double what the next year.
Okay, we're done now, with, for the sake of time and the fact that we're not finalizing anything, we're gonna move on to, let me just save this. This should be saved to the disk, right?
To the flash drive.
The flash drive. Let me make sure.
So you ended up at 100?
This comment is underage.
it's 102.
Thank
You
you.
know, I said, yeah, one more, you put 2 on it.
Where should it go?
If you want one.
You get 2 points for filling your name out correctly, right? The ACT.
Yeah, you definitely get that. USB drive.
Which right community?
Signs it.
Okay, good, let's move on. Bye bye complete streets. Let's move on to multi-use trails, yay, we love trails. Okay, let's see how fast, before we all nod off here. How does the proposed trail provide connections? 5 points. Trail connects 2 communities or completes a gap in the shoulder, 5 points. It's an extension of or funded segment, 3 points. Any questions on that?
Should that be communities?
It can, yeah, connects communities or completes a gap in a corridor.
Basically, inside your community, you have a gap.
Yeah.
So that would count.
Okay.
You know, Cherville is a good example of that. Cherville had some pretty big gaps
Yeah,
to fill.
big gap.
Does a project provide for a trailhead with a minimum 5-car parking spaces, max 3 points given? And we used to say we gave them more points for as many parking, we just came down to 1.
Yeah.
Okay. We come back to the dwelling units 1. That's the same as we saw before, and we seem okay with that. We'll just see how many points we have at the end, if there's any extra points.
Yeah, we can always try to match it and bump it back up. So we can.
Well,
Just
I
the other
can,
one.
I'll tell you what I'll do is if there's a similar question on here that's in complete streets, I will refer, just write in and refer to complete streets.
Yeah.
You do your magic, Charles. I'll just follow in your train. Does the proposed trail connect to existing on-road bike routes, sign, bike lanes, or cycle tracks? We have to clarify that. and show on the map. So does it cross into it, does it touch it, and if it does, it gets 2 points, simple as that. Any questions?
Yeah, we wrote that having signs, like it's not.
Yeah, it just can't be, oh, it's,
Yeah,
sure, there's a
sure.
sure of, no,
Right.
that's to be a little bit more than that. Does a project run directly adjacent to an institute of education, K through a college, we gave them 2. And I think this,
Maybe that's a better question.
That's
for,
probably
like,
the-
complete streets. I was gonna say, there's your answer.
this, we had that same question about school kids, and we're like, no, this ain't going anywhere, let's just do this.
Yeah,
If it goes by a school, it gets 2 points.
that makes sense.
Okay. That's
It should
good.
be
Want me to put that in the complete streets?
Mhm.
Okay, was that question 5?
Question 5, yeah.
I like
So what's considered directly adjacent, is that bordering up?
No, like in front of it, it's kind of.
It's on front, it's in back, it's running along the side, it has to be adjacent. So that kid can jump off the trail to the school property. You can't go through Farmer Joe's yard.
Yeah.
Parcel.
You can't cut through Kmart, now I'm dating myself. Okay,
I think it should be more points, to be honest,
Yeah.
than 2.
well, let's just keep, everyone's just stay, we can come back and reshuffle the deck. Let's just make sure the questions are sound.
Yeah, we don't want to get off 100.
That's right, Mark, you know me, I'm a stickler for 100. What is the project's relationship to local plans? Again, we went through this last time, and that's a little more than, that's actually now in line with our complete streets. What is the project's relationship to priority trails corridor map? This is the big one. Project is on a high priority corridor, 45 points, pretty simple. Project's on a medium, 30, project's on a low, 15. Now, we add 5 if it's on a visionary. We have 2 visionaries, Marquette Greenway and the Great American Rail Trail. Isolated projects connects 2 corridors, 10. Isolated projects connects 1 corridor, 5. So it's gonna get some points, one or the other, okay? So it could be an isolated project that does connect to a low corridor, it's gonna get 5 points. Or to a high corridor, or whatever. So we've fleshed this out over the years, this is where we've ended up. Any questions?
Are we referring to a 2020 plan or a 2024 plan?
No, 2020 plan, that's the map that we have identified in there. Now, of course, I can say the updated, I can just basically get rid of the 2020 plan language altogether, just say the map. because
Yeah,
it's
that was
always
current
updated.
trail.
Yeah,
Current
Blue Ways
yeah,
plan.
Current trail.
Just delete 2020.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, no, we don't even need that, it's just a map.
And just clarification, the max 45 points, this is what, the project's a high priority quarter, it's 45 points. You don't get another 10 if it's a vision of 5, if it's visionary.
Well, you get another 5 if it's.
Well, then
you
the
get
max
big-
can't, then the max can't.
No,
be-
max is 45.
No, max is 45, yes.
Right, but you
Well,
take-
it says, I guess you said it can be 50 if you add 5 points.
Well, I'm just saying that the max isn't 45.
Right, it should be 50.
Okay. that's-
Or we actually just bring this down to 40.
That's what I would do.
And there you go.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I tell you, if it's math, I run with this, I do. This is why I love you engineers. Okay, very good. We have the same thing about the legacy project, so we've been through that. Does it cross municipal boundaries? We've been through that. Any funding agreements with other partners? We've been through that again, and we will adjust it just like we did with the complete streets, with the land, and with the minimum percentage allowed. Okay? Over, towards the overmatch. Okay.
Pretty much the same.
You changed this one, didn't you? Hold on.
That one's 0. We took
Yeah, we took it out, okay. So they're the same. So there's 7 points are on the table now, people. Actually, we have more than that, right? What is the overmatch? We've been through overmatch. Location in the EJ area, been through that. There's no economic generation anymore. And then this is the bottom, so we have 94. I don't know if we have 94, right? But again, we're gonna come through this and do it again. So at this point, we've eliminated 7 points. So 7 points are on the table. Let's just go ahead and,
94, and 7 is 101.
I know, that's why it's not making sense.
I'd say we just let Charles compare it to the complete streets.
It's 87 now.
It'll be close. I mean, he'll get it close. If there's anything that we need to adjust, we can.
Well, I just want to get the feeling of the group as a benchmark.
Well, I'm just saying, we changed the complete street one to what we liked. So
Yeah.
if Charles does that, he makes those modifications, we'll probably do something.
Well, some of these aren't the same as complete streets. So like the 5-car parking spaces, we'll keep that.
Yeah, that's-
Do we want to make these connections, the proposed connections more than 5 points? If it's connecting 2 communities or a gap, that's pretty important too, right? Or do we just, I don't know, do we keep it?
Also, what I'm saying, I guess maybe I'm not clear. Like, we change points on the Clean Street ones, that some of those questions are in here. If we added 2 points, 3 points on those, you're gonna need to add them here,
Right.
so you don't have 7 points. And I don't know what I don't know what that total was.
We have 13 to play with right
We
now.
might have to cut, I'm afraid we might have to cut, that's what I was getting
Point
at,
or two.
like, which we don't wanna do. but-
Yeah,
You know what, we're just gonna leave it.
Yeah, we can.
He can-
So go to program your rules.
Program and, okay.
So what's in red has been adjusted or changed. So if you just scroll down there and you can look, and if you want to go through Mitch, what's in red, if you can see that with your rules of classes.
Barely.
I know.
So number 2, we don't keep those on file. I'm sorry. We put that in there, but we never collected it, we never kept them on file. Number 4, this is going to what I've been saying all along about PE right away and CE. And NERC is only going to be funding 75%. What we found and what we're finding at the quarterly meetings is that people have leftover PE money, leftover right-of-way money, and once that money's obligated, you cannot use it anywhere else. The only place it'll go is back to federal highway. So we've had anywhere from $3,000 to $400,000 that were left because they didn't need it. So we're trying to eliminate that. And it's, yeah, you're not gonna like it, but it's fair for everybody. So,
You're not gonna like it, but you will.
CN is gonna be continued to be funded at 80 or 90%. Number 5, I just mentioned the fact that we're throwing in there federal highways programming emphasis areas. What's that?
Rules to come and stand in history.
Yeah, that's all I was gonna say. Oh, wait, yeah, what the heck?
There it is. We should have the six.
My eyes are, yeah, I'm like,
So that's what, we're just throwing that in there and clarifying that one, so. We're just throwing that emphasis in there. So scrolling down, Mitch.
Yes, sir.
Number 10, it's the same as number 9, so I just took it out. And then number 12, change orders would be limited to $100,000. That's what we've always followed with. We just happen to, I just happen to notice that it was 10%, but now it's just a straight, that's what you're limited to, $100,000. We keep a buffer of $350,000 in our kitty for change orders, so we don't always use that money, but we can always apply for it somewhere else. But sometimes people come in and they ask for $300,000, and so that, therefore, we take it to 0. 19, I just wanted to emphasize that it's 15% for contingencies. When you're giving me your estimate, please give it to me in today's dollars. We have several people that will, some people will inflate it, some people won't inflate it, some people inflate it to 25%, some people inflate it to 10%. So I just say don't inflate it at all. And then in contingencies, whenever you're giving me your probable estimate of probable cost, there's always contingency in there. So keeping it at 15%, no more, no less. And I know we're talking about 29 and 30 right now. A lot of things can happen we don't know. I have an inflation calculator at my tips, at my fingertips, so I inflate all of the projects. And plus, if you give me an inflated cost for 2029 and we don't fund it until 2030, you need more money. Same token, if you inflate it to 2030 and we program it in 2029, well, you shouldn't get that extra money. I should pull it back. So that's why I do an inflation all the way out and to every single year, whatever we program it, that's what I give you money.
Charles, when you bump something back in the tip, then is that, do you adjust any amounts, or is that amount, like if you were in 29 and the project got pushed back to the fiscal year 30 or something, do you?
Well, usually when I'm in there, then Federal Highway now requires everybody to show all of the program costs. So therefore, I ask on your application, how much is your PE gonna be? How much is your right-of-way gonna be? How much, and then of course, what your estimate is for your construction and your construction engineering. And then I throw those in there, and now, Federal Highway has asked that every time a new construction estimate comes in, that I go into the tip and I change that. So as I've mentioned at the last T-Rock meeting, when you get a new estimate, please send it to me so I can adjust it in the tip. And then I will also adjust it in the program projects and give you those funds.
Okay, that's all you got, Charles?
Yep. And then the bottom part is the transit stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, any other questions? Anything else, Charles, from you?
No.
Tom, anything? Anything, Grace, anything random? Okay. Look, I really appreciate you guys sticking through it and doing this, thank you. I know we go through this every few years, but it's very important. And every year we get better and better and better, so it's good to see. For the sake of time, I'm gonna run through everything else. Our Greenways and Blueways map is underway. I'm working with Grace. It is now an in-house product, so we're looking to get that released probably mid to late May. Right now, we hope to have the project actually edited this week and finished. And we have quite a few new sponsors I kind of have to massage in there, but it's not really going to change much from what you saw. And we have the app as well that we have to update with our provider, My City Bikes. So we'll have to be doing that as well. And I got to figure out, I think you've worked with them before on edits.
Yeah, I think around this time last year.
Yeah, so we have a whole bunch more now. We've had a lot of new trails on the ground, and so anyway. Trail counter update. I'm working on trying to get money allocated for that here. We still have to figure out what money we have. There's been a lot of stuff going along with our I say PL funding. You don't know what that means. Our federal funding allocations are being kind of adjusted throughout the state between other NPOs. We kind of have to know where we end up because we need to pay ourselves first. Sorry. And then after that, we might have some money to work on with the local entities. I know a lot of you have received trail counters, and we would like to give you more. We have Mr. Kevin here. Kevin is actually taking over, Kevin Police taking over our trail counter stuff. So if you have any complaints and you have any threats and you're angry, you talk to him.
You want to talk about how great they are? Talk to Mitch.
Yes, yeah, everything's going great. You know where to find me. No, I know that a lot of, John's coming in at the right time. So I know a lot of you have, like John, have the old traffic counters. And the old traffic counters, we have to perform an exorcism on, so we'll bring them into the office. We've hired a priest. It's going to be fun. Maybe we'll actually videotape that.
So yes, all the old trail counters are back in the office. We got to recalibrate them, not traffic counters.
Sorry, trail counters, trail traffic counters. I know. He actually deals with actual traffic counting. We actually have them.
You mean the deer counters?
So
Squirrel counters,
we've had some interesting numbers out there. For those who are in this room that have counters, please get out there and count. Kevin will remind you gently. Those things keep data in for a year and then they kick it out. So we like to have at least monthly counts. We have a new website that comes to the state of Indiana. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's happening. And we're gonna try to keep these numbers going, and we're gonna
Yeah, if we
figure
get,
that
if
out.
we get some pretty regular numbers, which so far we've actually been doing pretty well with everyone, for almost the most part, but the idea is that we're gonna put them into a dashboard of some sort and just have those constantly updating. Granted, that being said, like, I'll just use Sherrville as an example. It may not have like the month of May or something like that, but Hammond will, but that'll get updated the next time that, you know, you go out there and collect the new trail counts.
We just have to figure out how that works. We know that other entities do this, work with the entity that we work with, or the supplier, Eco.
Yeah, EcoVision kind of showed me how we can do that, but we have not done it yet. But it looks like it's not overly difficult to do, so.
How many trail counters have we've installed? 27, 28 of the new ones out there?
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's too
And so it's a good cross-section, and we're getting, like I said, we're getting some exciting numbers on what we're seeing out there, so we're hoping we can continue to share that. So any questions on counters?
It's just out of the room, what was the previous counters or the old school counters?
Traffic.
Has that data been retrieved or is that
We're
lost?
working on that now.
Okay.
Like I said, we're gonna have a seance and hopefully it'll come out. They did count them those were originally installed in 17. So we do have data from 17 to at least 20 or 21 of those things that have been collected. So there could be a couple years of a gap until we get to the new ones. But we still want to redistribute the Trafex counters out there once we recalibrate it, if we're able to. We still want to reuse them because, you know, the eco counters are pretty expensive. But we might be talking to you, Kevin, as a we, might be talking to you about relocating some of those eco counters into more populated areas. Like the one you have, John, we probably better serve downtown, something like that. But anyway, keep that in mind. And when we do go out for the next counters, well, there are options. There's actually a dashboard. Some people said we like this dashboard idea, our kinds. And it's like, hey, what's this going to cost? Well, we'll offer it. I think the last time it was there, it came up to 15 grand. And, you know, if we have the money, we can give you the opportunity if you want to put your 20% in on that. Okay, is South Shore Trails here? Nope. Okay, is a paddling association here? Nope. See, that's easy. Okay, announcements, end of 3PC. I'm sorry to say that. We have existed for many years, Transportation Enhancement Committee, became Ped Paddle, and then became Ped Paddle and Paddle. Here we are today. This is probably the best turnout we've had probably in 3 years, so thank you. However, NERC is in the process of consolidating. They are going to consolidate pretty much all these topical committees into 4 major groups. Transportation, economy and place, environment, and what's the last one, Pete? What's the last one? People and leaders. And so our new transportation committee will include the 3PC, the Surface Transportation Committee, as well as the Technical Planning Committee. We are still figuring out how that's going to work, and while we're figuring it out, we are still the 3PC group as we go into the NOFA. So we want to keep the committees intact as we go through this NOFA, and then probably after the NOFA is out in September, actually after we review the applications in November, December, we will cease to exist as an independent committee. I know I didn't bring the tissues, but we will encourage your participation in the new transportation committee when it does start up. Obviously, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to work that in, the topics to make sure that we are adequately covering the needs of non-motorized transportation and some recreation issues at those meetings. I know that the park directors are meeting independently with among themselves, with Chuck Gardner leading that group. I now sit in that group, so I'm going to do my best to try to work with you in that capacity as well. So that has been voted on and approved by the NERC Commission at our April meeting. So now it's just, as it's usually done, the legislative body approves it, then the staff have to figure out how this is going to work. So it's going to take a few months. But we definitely don't want to break things up now while we're in the middle of NOFA. So things are going to stay in the status quo. I think our next meeting is actually scheduled for August. We'll get you that date soon enough. There might be one in July ahead of it, just if we have to go over more information regarding NOFA to make sure that we're calibrated. And I'll start with project updates. We had a great day. Thank you, John. And Mark, were you at that? You were there. So thank you for being there. Governor Holcomb was up here on Tuesday, and he opened up the CNO Greenway from Maryville to Lake County Parks. And great day. A lot of the people, helicopters, angry bicyclists because they couldn't get through. That's fine. And they were there because the governor showed up. It was a 100th mile trail filled with next level trails. But I'm proud to announce that we have 200 miles to our region now, officially. 200 miles of regional trail, give or take. Probably not take, yeah, it's probably more. But we have 200 miles of trail in Northwest Indiana, so you can proudly say that. And we're going to get a post out about that number, which we finally crossed. Again, we only had 13 miles in this region back in 1990, and now we're 200. So all of you have a lot to thank yourself for because you guys are part of the success. And we thank you for being active in that. And we continue to have more projects coming along. From my perspective, the Marquette Greenway is chugging right along. We have some gaps that we're working on, but the project in LaPorte County is done from Michigan City to state line. They paved that 1 mile trail. So now we have to work on the Michigan City side, which unfortunately has some right-of-way issues all of a sudden. Yay. And then the Michigan side, they have ground broke the Marquette Greenway from downtown New Buffalo to about a quarter mile north of the state line, or about a half mile. That's where we pick it up with our raise grant. So our raise grant is covering that little section in Michigan, in the state of Michigan. All of the remainder of the Singing Sandwich Trail in Michigan City, which is about 3 miles, and that's where we need property acquisition and engineering in both Portage and Gary. We are applying for another raise grant to finish the West Gary segment. That is $21 million just to get that 3 miles done. 3 bridges alone just in Agawam because of all the transportation facilities and so forth. So very big lift there, but it's nice to see that the Marquette Greenway is getting a lot of love. I know that the foundations have come together in the 4 foundations in 3 counties applying the Lilly for $20 million, and the focus of that is the Marquette Greenway, linkages to the Marquette Greenway. So that's big news as well. So we're getting things done. People are getting excited about it, and I think that might be all I have for what I need. Anybody else want to bring up any projects that you're working on to update the group with?
Rich, the Old Plank Trail study.
Oh, that thing, yeah. Old Plank Road Trail is, he's leaving, Chuck?
Yeah, sorry, I gotta get my kids off the bus.
That's important. Don't let them sit there.
They'll walk.
Yeah, they'll walk, right?
Dang it.
Thanks, Chuck.
Mine's 2.
So, Old Plank Road Trail is looking to wrap up this summer. They're having one more public open house in Chicago Heights. But the project is what it is. We know that we have some pretty strong opposition from Dyer on the route, but again, Dyer's not funding it, we are. So we're going to be aspirational with where the route should go. Again, it's up to Dyer. We have always said that to them. It's like, we're not bringing bulldozers the next day with the plans approved. That's not how this works. It's a long way from that happening. And the Dyer Town Council is in control of it. I would only hope that we're going to see the project done in Cherryville and Dyer to Central Park. We're going to see the project done on the other side from Chicago Heights to the state line. That's being engineered right now by the Forest Preserve and by Cook County. So there's going to be that 1 mile gap right in Central Dyer. Like, okay, guys, figure this out. What are we doing here? So triangulating, I guess. But the corridor is free and clear. It's the best route for the trail in Dyer. It connects to many neighborhoods. It's a great asset. So we hope down the line we'll see that done. But again, all we do at NERC is advise and inspire. So we're trying to do the best we can with this plan. And yeah, that's what we have for the Old Plank Road. Any other updates? Talk about the vet, Greg.
Yeah, thanks to Charles, he helped us, and I think we'll have an extra $500,000 to continue with some more right-of-way acquisition. We need that between around 231 and 65, because we've got one parcel that's really expensive. So then we have 2 more that were sent offers to, and I think we'll be able to close those.
And this is Crown Point.
Crown Point, correct? Yep, by 231.65, and so once those 3 are complete, and we hope they'll be done within the next month or 2, then we'll be able to start focusing between Iowa Street and County Line. And I would hope we would be able to start at County Line and move our way towards Leroy.
Yeah.
And help out Hebron, because I know Hebron's chomping at the bit. And it'd be good to get that moving, west from Hebron. So, yeah, and I know we've got some willing sellers in that area, so, yeah, I think we could definitely make some more, acquire some more right away there, so.
And also in Crown Point, there's the bridge over Broadway that you're discussing with the city right now.
Correct, yeah, we were trying to work on getting some preliminary engineering funds. The timing just didn't quite work out with NDOT, but, Jim, my boss, had a meeting with Jake from Butler, Fairman, Seifert. They'll be doing the engineering for us on that. And so they're pretty confident we'll go ahead and start at least on some right-of-way clearing there and start on the survey work to get the ball rolling, and then, kind of see how we can get some work done, get a good contract with NDOT and with the consultant, and then be ready in case any additional funds become available to help us move a little quicker, so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Or get reimbursed later.
Just so we know, the vet trail is, as you all know, it's been on the books since 1999. It was originally funded. That's why I have a job still, trying to manage this project. Only 2 miles have been built since that time. And he talks about the Hebron. Now, this is not Lake County Parks. Lake County Parks is dealing with an amazing amount of difficult landowners, and a lot of them. But Hebron did build their 1 mile segment last year, and it was one of those things where it's like you get your trail, you want more, and boy, do they want more. People are on that 1 mile every day. They're populating with trees, and also it's a huge community asset, and they wanted to Leroy. If anyone ever wanted to be in Leroy, it's Hebron. That's another 4 miles out of Leroy, so they definitely want to see that done. But it's moving along, thanks to Craig, thanks to Jim for staying on that, and again, it might be the project that I finally retire on. We'll see. It's all said and done. I also want to say, and I'm going to steal a little of your thunder, but I don't think you had any thunder, Mark Hines, but you're putting in a stoplight there by Maple Leaf Crossing.
Well, I was going to say that hopefully within the next month, the missing segment of the Pennsy that is from Centennial Park through Centennial Village Development to 45th gets completed.
Excellent.
That would have paved, it's already stoned, and it was stoned last fall, and they just got to pave it there. That same corridor going up Calumet Avenue to Maple Leaf Crossing Development, that they're putting in a temporary light, so that would be the Pennsy crossing of Calumet Avenue at that location. So that is underway right now.
Do we know, now I talked to Dustin before he left, and do we know if we have like the design orientated for biking paths, like mid-block crossings, and make it safe for people to cross that?
At that traffic light?
Yeah.
I
You
have no
don't know what it looks like?
I don't know. I know that this is a temporary light that's going in right now. The developer is the one responsible for putting it in, so they have to reach a certain threshold of development before they put the finished version of it in. But they were the ones desiring to put in even a temporary light, so they're adding it. But yeah, we're going to have to look at little pieces on the east side of Calumet to expand that, the width over there to kind of better than, I think it's only a 4 or 5 foot wide sidewalk.
Yeah, that's a sidewalk, that needs to be strengthened, yeah. But it's good, I'm glad you're thinking of that, Mark, because if anyone knows this area of Calumet Avenue and Munster, it's always been a problem. And the trails that they built there are kind of, we're going to try to finish the trail with the developer behind Pepsi over there. And the Maple Leaf Crossing actually has a trail being built right through it. So we're trying to access it through this lane. And it's all part of the Great American Rail Trail, so it's, and the Betsy Greenway for that matter. So it's all, we're trying to protect the continuity of this entire corridor. So thanks, Mark, for.
You'll also see some Great American Rail Trail signage going up along. That was also delivered to us, so we're excited to get that installed hopefully the next month or so.
Beaver got theirs, and they're like, yay, look, we're 1 mile.
Yeah, we just got ours this week, to additional signage, so we'll go all the way to Munster, because we just had the phase 4.
That's right.
Signage, so. Mitch, I don't know if you did.
Look for it in Rail Fan garages very soon.
Mark, you realist. Go on, John.
Any, have you heard any other further discussions with Crown Point on extending the Pennsy, the Silverhawk, or any?
Well, it's not Crown Point. Well, first of all, Crown Point, I think, is folded on that. I think they are not going to pursue it into Whitehawk, which is won't happen. I mean, I've tried, but there's forces bigger than me at play here. Imagine that. So right now, Maribel is in charge of getting 91st Avenue turned into a, and we're gonna hope to bring them in for a NOFA, at least encourage them to put in a NOFA application from Erie, Lackawanna, or Sherrville, and work with you guys on how it gets to the fencing.
And they have Clark as well to deal with, to get it back up to 91st.
Well, that, I think what they're gonna do is, the trail would come down Clark only to Sherrville Trace. So
92nd, because there's no right of way going all the way to the trailhead.
And by the way, the trailhead, I passed it by the other day, it was packed. So people are,
So it always seems to have cars there.
they're using it. People,
Yeah.
I think, from Crown Point are coming to use it because that's a nice trailhead. So it's never gonna be a waste of space. Because I know people say, well, we're never gonna be, no, it's a perfectly fine trailhead in a busy roadway. It's gonna get used. But we're gonna try to cross the Sherrville Trace, take the trail through the residential area, and then connect to the Penn that way. That's the plan right now. I would like to see it on 91st all the way through, but it was a swamp. So,
The NIPSCO, the power lines, was that the area they were going to use to connect to the area, or was there a different route? I know at one point there was talk about going on the north side of the golf course, and there's some Maryville homeowners associations that have property. That'd be the shortest connection.
well, the original route would go down the old right-of-way, which is also the NIPSCO right-of-way, all the way to Whitehawk and then to Beaver Dam Ditch on the north edge of the ditch and take it to Erie. It was fine. We had room, we had everything ready, and they just they're like, well, there's a cart path there, we can't do it. Like, we cross railroads and roads all over the region, I think we can handle a cart path, I think that was the end of it. Especially on back 9, that doesn't get a lot of action either, but whatever, I'm progressing. It's their property, it's what can you do, it's just, that's what happened. So, I wanted to at least go to Whitehawk, but they're not open to that either. I'm like, okay, it's your residence, we'll figure it out.
So I know on the previous map that we have on the kiosk, it shows that future connection, that route.
Yeah.
So that's going to be wiped out on the.
Well, you're gonna need new signs anyway, because as we redevelop the map, we're gonna have to work with you and all the other entities that have kiosks to get those changed out. That's why they're kind of, you can screw them and pop them out. Of course, that's great for vandals too, so we're figuring that out as well, but we'll have to work with you and work with the sign fabricator and what that would cost you guys. But we'll supply the map.
Mhm.
We'll do that in-house.
I had some residents contact me complaining that it's not going to go in Whitehawk, so I told them to contact Crown Point and complain to them, is that correct?
Yeah, talk to the mayor directly.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Go right to the top.
Yeah, all right.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah,
Don't go to Jenny, don't go to the parks, don't go to public vote, right to Mayor Land.
yeah, okay.
He needs to hear that. Okay.
Have you
Anything else?
I'm curious if you had any coordination at all from NERC with the NICD about when the Monon might be open?
No, but they're making, oh, Mark's done. They're the only Mark, good.
Mine's
Good. So, no, I haven't heard when. I mean, I'd like to see that open before the station does, because it's gonna be a while before the West Lake opens.
Yeah.
So, let me get back to you on that. I mean, they put the bridge in, it's done.
The bridge is back in place.
The
yeah.
tunnel is there.
And, I mean, they can connect at least to the Little Cow River Trail if they can't go it all the way
Right.
right into Hammond.
I rode that the other day, and there was this big old sawhorse there, so.
Yeah.
But everything's done. I mean, the bridge is in, everything's stoned up to it, so let me get with Nicole and let you know. Anything else? Okay, so, we lost floor, but we don't need a motion to adjourn. Like I say, the next meeting date is gonna be, in August, maybe July, just, stay tuned, watch this space, and everybody, thank you all, be careful out there, it sounds pretty bad.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, you don't really need to. Thank you all.
Jump out.